Con ustedes, Alexey Raevsky, CEO and co-founder de Zecurion.
Hi, everybody. My name is Alexey Raevsky. I'm Chief Executive Officer at Zecurion, and I'm going to discuss today our vision of the internal fraud problem and our understanding how to prevent internal fraud and how to address this problem. I would like, first of all, I would like to thank you, to thank MAPS team for this invitation, and I'm happy to present to Mexican market our concepts and our vision of this problem. Well, let's start with the internal fraud problem. Maybe you are not aware of this problem. Maybe you don't know how this problem is important. So let's discuss this a little bit. I would like to introduce you the report from Association of Certified Fraud Examiners. It was published in the beginning of this year, and actually, in fact, it's a global study on occupational fraud and abuse. Member of this association, Certified Fraud Examiners, have been collected those cases for the study and made a research of the cases. They integrated the data from 2,050 cases from more than 120 countries, and they identified that the total loss from occupational fraud in these cases totally was more than $3.6 billion US. Per case, average loss is 1.5 million US, and it was estimated as 5% of organizations' revenue each year. If we extrapolate this number to the global economy, we give astonishing number of 4.5 trillion US dollars globally each year. It's the amount of loss due to occupational fraud and abuse. It's the huge number. To give you an idea of this number, I can say that it's a little bit more than total spendings of the US national budget from 2019. Also, in this study, there are some interesting results. For example, 26% of fraudsters, so it's more than 1/4 of fraudsters, had financial difficulties. This means that they wanted to solve those difficulties at the expense of the organization where they employed. And we expect that this number will increase due to economic decline caused by COVID-19 pandemic. And what is also important is that only 3% of cases were detected by surveillance monitoring and only 2% by IT controls. This means that there is a big potential to improve, and for us, it's a big potential for distributing corresponding tools for internal fraud prevention. Here you can see a little bit more details on detection methods of internal fraud. You can see in the top part of this graph There are passive detection methods. Most popular is when this case goes outside the organization and the police somehow noticed about this case, and they give this information to the organization. But you can see that this case is most expensive because the loss is the highest, and the duration is the longest. On the opposite side, in the bottom side of this diagram, there are active methods, active detection methods. Namely IT controls and surveillance and monitoring. You can see that they provide lowest duration and loss. So there is a good sense and good value to implement corresponding tools and corresponding technologies that helps to detect occupational fraud. What is also interesting is that group fraud is more frequent and more dangerous. So you can see that there are more than half cases when there are more than one perpetrator, and the amount of losses are higher as well. What we suggest, so you can see that the problem is huge, and what we suggest to address this problem is next generation DLP concept. You might know, of course, you know about DLP systems, but classical representation of DLP market is a little bit different. Let's get a little bit deeper into this to better understand the next generation DLP concept. Currently, there are three driving forces on the DLP market, namely regulatory compliance, intellectual property and trade secrets protection, and internal security and forensic investigations. First two driving forces are kind of classical representation of the DLP market. And the third driving force was kind of new one. It's appeared recently, and actually it's the sign of appearing next generation DLP concept. Each driving force forms its own requirements for the DLP systems. So we can say that there are three classes of the DLP systems in the market. Those three classes could be represented as a kind of evolutionary process because they appeared in the market stage by stage, class by class, with increasing functionality and increasing value for the customers. First of all, it was compliance DLP with the most simplest feature set, and it was intended just to protect personal data and to provide compliance with regulatory requirements. Then it was IP and trade secret protection DLP. Those systems were more complicated, and they allowed to protect not only personal data, but also some proprietary information of the company. And then the third stage of the evolution, next generation DLP, is internal security DLP. Let's get a little bit deeper into each class to better understand the difference between them. Compliance DLP provides limited features and controlled channels. Usually it's embedded feature in some another product, for example, cloud security gateway or email security gateway. And in fact, it this system doesn't intended to protect any data. It's necessary to just to demonstrate that the company took all necessary measures to protect personal data. So it's a kind of checkmark solution. It's necessary for compliance purposes only. And you can understand that compliance is a kind of burden for the organization. So they don't want to spend many resources, many time, many efforts for this topic. They just need to have some kind of check mark in the auditor's report, and in case of some security incident or data breach, they will display, they will present this report and say that we did our best, and it's just a coincidence, and we couldn't prevent this. IP protection DLP is more complicated and more sophisticated. It covers full range of data leakage channels. It's a standalone product, and it has advanced content detection technologies such as fingerprints, machine learning, and so on. Because this system should protect not only typical data, personal data, but this should allow some customization for proprietary information, because personal data is the same for all organizations, for all companies, but proprietary sensitive data, trade secrets, intellectual property are different for all organizations. This class, this systems from this class gives more value for organizations. But in fact, it's the transitionary class to the next level, because data leakage, it's just part of the more of a broader scope of internal security problematics. So internal security DLP is the next third stage. We call this next generation DLP. It has all features of previous classes, but it allows forensic investigations and internal control. Actually, it's also called money loss prevention rather than data loss prevention, because with this technology, you can prevent real money losses caused by internal fraud. Here in this picture, you can see next generation DLP concept. Classical DLP allows protection only from data leaks, but next generation DLP treats this problem in a much broader scope. It helps to protect from insider threats. And by insider threats, we understand data leaks, internal fraud, improving internal security, reveal employees' misbehavior, and conduct forensic investigations. So you might ask, what are the features of this next generation DLP that provides this advanced functionality? Here I can summarize for you two classes of features. First one is intelligence capabilities. Those features are based on the full archive of files and events. Typical DLP system from first two classes provides archive of incidents only. So if you didn't create a corresponding DLP policy, you will not see events and files and information corresponding to this policy. In next generation DLP, you will have full archive of files and events. And for example, if you create new DLP policy, you can apply this policy to this existing archive and see if the violation of this policy had happened in the past. And what is more important, based on this archive, you can generate new knowledge and new information which you can use in these internal security tasks. First of all, you can have user behavior analytics functionality here, which means that you can that the system is able to analyze users' behavior and alert security officer on some unexpected deviation and some significant surges from the normal behavior. This is important because such deviations could signify that this particular user is going to do something wrong, and maybe he's preparing some action that could harm your organization. Also, you can have here emotional profiling of user, which means that the system analyzes not only actions of the users, not only behavior, but also content of their communication. And you can see which emotional words are, which emotional words prevail in their communication. So you can estimate if some particular user is angry or disappointed or for example, loyal. And with this feature, you can estimate user loyalty. You can measure team spirit and do other important things in terms of your team. In this slide, you can see an example of connection diagram, which is also could be generated based on the archive. This diagram displays users and connections between them. By connections, I mean any communications between the two particular users. This diagram is expandable, so you can click it and expand to any direction, or drill down to any specific piece of communication. This diagram is helpful if you need to conduct some forensic investigation, because it helps you to find some hidden connection within your organization. Also, a very helpful type of report could be used here, called file flow path, which means that next generation DLP system displays some particular file, and it's able to track this file inside the network. For example, you can see where this file was created, how it circulated inside the network, and where it's currently stored, and how, when, and where it's left your network. And this file is identified by its content rather than by its file name. So you can see this file even if some user renamed this file or copy-paste the content of this file to another file. Okay, second class of features are advanced control capabilities, which means that next generation DLP is able to control some certain channels and some certain things that typical DLP, classical DLP doesn't control. First of all, it's able to control not only information inside the network, but also surrounding environment. It's able to record microphone and webcam on any computer. So you can turn any computer with microphone and webcam into the surveillance device. This could be helpful if you need to do some investigation, or you need to fix some legal evidence for further legal actions, court or police, depending on your requirements. There are also keyboard recording and user session recording. It's also not typical for the classic DLP system. Next generation DLP is able to record all typed keystrokes of users and record their user sessions. This is also helpful to control, to better control employees, even if they don't send anything outside. And it's also helpful to fix some actions of your employees as a legal evidence. Next generation DLP also provides application control on endpoints, which means that you can create a more strict environment for your employees and to improve your security posture by this. There is also interesting feature called screen photo detection, because some experts blame DLP providers that they don't protect from taking photo of the screen by smartphone or regular camera. In this case, this feature is able to detect such events, such cases. It analyzes an image from the webcam with artificial intelligence-based algorithm and it's able to detect if someone tries to take a photo of the screen. So to summarize what I said above, I can say that next generation DLP provides much more advanced functionality, and this gives customers much more value. So with this next generation DLP, you can not only provide compliance with regulatory requirements or protect sensitive data from leaks, but you can also reduce cost of investigation, identify employees' misbehavior, misuse of organization resources, reveal internal fraud, financial manipulations, embezzlement, industrial espionage, and other unwanted things that could lead to real financial losses. Well, I would like to share with you a use case. This is the real case which one of our customer reported to us. This were the oil refinery plant, and this plant sold products to fake intermediaries with significant discounts. Those were a set of shell companies that existed only on paper, and those companies sold those products to real customers for normal price. And those operations were only on paper, and the products goes directly to to real customers, but the price difference went directly to organized insiders group inside this organization. When this organization deployed next generation DLP, they discovered, they investigated this case, and they found that there were a group of managers, including C-level guy, who engaged in this scheme. They identified some suspicious communications with external contacts, some exchange of irrelevant documents with between people who are not connected by the nature of their work. And they identified the total loss of more than $25 million annually. It took them around 4 or 5 months to discover this scheme. They used some advanced technologies that I mentioned earlier, such as email and instant messengers control, users connection diagram, user behavior analysis, and also they used microphone recording and user session recording for fixing the user's action as a legal evidence. As a result of this case, 3 key members of this group were fired, and the organization initiated the lawsuit for the compensation of the damage and also criminal case for assets misappropriation. Actually, those guys spent the money for buying luxury cars, real estate, and also they had bank accounts abroad. With the help of Next Generation DLP, this scheme was discovered quite fast and effectively. So that's all from my side. Thank you very much for your attention. I'm happy that I would like to thank again MAPS team for this opportunity to present our next generation DLP concept to the Mexican market. Thank you very much.
Agradecemos a Alexey Raevsky por su participación en el IT Solutions Day.